What if I told you that your financial future has already been decided not by your salary, your education, or even your intelligence, but by the level of financial power you've chosen to live in? Every day, millions of people wake up, go to work, pay their bills, and repeat the same routine. Some believe they're making progress because their income increases. Others proudly celebrate promotions, bigger houses, or more expensive cars. Yet years later, many of them are still trapped one unexpected expense away from financial stress. At the same time, there are people earning the same income, sometimes even less, who quietly build wealth, gain freedom, and eventually reach a point where money begins working harder than they do. Why? Because wealth doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows through levels. Each level comes with its own mindset, habits, opportunities, and invisible traps. Most people spend their entire lives climbing harder instead of climbing higher. They confuse earning more with becoming more powerful. But financial power isn't measured by how much money passes through your hands. It's measured by how much control you have over your time, your decisions, and your future. The uncomfortable truth is that almost everyone reaches a point where they stop growing. They believe they've made it, while in reality, they've simply become comfortable inside a higher-paying version of the same cage. In this video, we'll explore the 5 levels of financial power, a framework inspired by timeless strategic thinking and modern wealth psychology. More importantly, you'll discover why most people never reach level 5, and what separates those who do from everyone else. Before we begin, subscribe to Money is Power if you want to master the psychology of wealth, strategic thinking, and timeless financial principles that help you build lasting freedom, not just a bigger paycheck. Now, let's discover which level you're really living in. Before we explore the 5 levels, we need to answer a question that almost everyone gets wrong. What is financial power? Most people immediately think of money, the size of a bank account, a luxury home, a sports car, an expensive watch. But those things are only visible symbols. They are not power itself. History has repeatedly shown that people with enormous wealth can still lose everything almost overnight. Companies collapse, fortunes disappear, celebrities go bankrupt. Lottery winners often end up poorer than before. If money alone were power, none of this would happen. Real financial power is something far less visible. It is control. The control to decide how you spend your time. The control to refuse opportunities that don't align with your values. The control to walk away from a toxic job without fear. The control to invest patiently while everyone else is chasing quick rewards. Money is simply one of the tools that makes this possible. It is not the destination. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He observed that rulers who depended too heavily on the approval of others eventually lost their authority. Those who controlled their own resources could think strategically, act independently, and shape their own future. The same principle applies to money today. Many people earn impressive salaries, yet they own very little. Every paycheck has already been promised to a mortgage, car payments, credit cards, subscriptions, and a lifestyle they can no longer afford to lose. From the outside, they appear successful. On the inside, they have very little freedom. Now imagine someone earning less but living differently. They own productive assets. They have emergency savings. Their investments continue growing while they sleep. They are not trying to impress anyone. They are quietly increasing their ability to choose. Who is truly more powerful? That question leads us to the framework we'll use throughout this video. There are 5 levels of financial power. Each level is defined by 3 things: how you think, what keeps you trapped, and what it takes to reach the next level. Your income may change many times throughout your life, but unless your thinking changes, your level rarely does. So let's begin where almost every financial journey starts, the place where survival leaves very little room for strategy. Every journey toward financial power begins in the same place. Level 1. Financial survival. This is the stage where money is no longer a tool for growth. It becomes nothing more than a means of making it through another day. If you're living at level 1, nearly every financial decision you make is driven by pressure. The pressure to pay rent, the pressure to cover your bills, the pressure to keep your current job at any cost. One unexpected setback, a broken car, a medical emergency, or a few weeks without work is enough to throw your entire life into chaos. The greatest danger at this level isn't a lack of money. It's a lack of choice. When you have no financial cushion, every opportunity becomes an obligation. You accept overtime even when you're exhausted. You stay in a toxic workplace because you can't afford to leave. You borrow money at high interest rates just to solve today's problems. You choose temporary relief over long-term solutions. This is the first trap. Not the trap of poverty, the trap of fear. Machiavelli observed that people who live in constant fear are the easiest to control. When every decision is made simply to avoid loss, strategic thinking begins to disappear. Long-term planning is replaced by short-term survival. Instead of building tomorrow, people become consumed with getting through today. That is why so many people spend years, even decades, without ever escaping level 1. Not because they are lazy, not because they lack intelligence, but because they've never had enough space to lift their heads and see the game from above. Yet, level 1 also offers a hidden advantage. It is where the most valuable financial lessons are born. Many successful people didn't escape poverty because they were lucky. They escaped because one day they stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "How does this system actually work?" The moment you stop blaming your circumstances and begin learning the rules of money, you take your very first step toward financial power. And that is when you're ready to move to level 2, financial stability, where life appears safer on the surface, but where an even more dangerous trap is waiting. Level 2 begins when fear no longer controls every single day of your life. You can pay your bills on time. You have a small emergency fund. Perhaps you can handle an unexpected expense without immediately borrowing money. Compared to level 1, this is a significant step forward. But this is also where a far more subtle trap begins to appear, the illusion of security. At level 2, life starts to feel stable. Your income is consistent. Your job seems secure. You can afford a better car, move into a larger apartment, or reward yourself with more expensive vacations. From the outside, it looks like you're moving up. But beneath the surface, the structure of your financial life has barely changed. Your income still stops the moment you stop working. Your expenses rise alongside every salary increase. Much of what you own is financed by debt rather than true ownership. If you were to lose your job for just a few months, that sense of stability could disappear almost overnight. This is the defining trap of level 2. You begin performing wealth before actually building it. Machiavelli understood that dependence becomes most dangerous when it feels comfortable. A cold prison makes people dream of escape, but a luxurious prison can make them forget they are prisoners at all. That is exactly what happens at this level. People confuse stability with freedom. Stability means your system works as long as everything goes according to plan. Freedom means you still have choices when the plan falls apart. Someone at level 2 may enjoy a comfortable lifestyle, yet still be unable to say no to a demanding boss, an overwhelming mortgage, or a lifestyle that quietly controls every financial decision they make. To move beyond this level, you must stop using every increase in income to upgrade your image. Instead, the gap between what you earn and what you spend should become emergency savings, productive assets, and income streams that no longer depend entirely on your time. The question is no longer, What else can I afford to buy? The better question is, what can I build today that will make me less dependent tomorrow? The moment you begin using money to purchase freedom of choice instead of social approval, you've already started climbing toward the next stage. Welcome to Level 3, Financial Independence, where money finally stops being just a source of income and begins to transform into a tool for creating lasting freedom. Level 3 begins the moment money stops being something that merely keeps you alive and starts creating distance between you and financial pressure. This is the stage where you're no longer completely dependent on a single paycheck. Perhaps you've built an investment portfolio that generates a modest stream of passive income. Maybe you've developed a valuable skill that allows you to earn beyond your primary job. You might own a small business, a digital product, a rental property, or a system that continues creating value even when you're not actively involved. The amount of money may not be life-changing, at least not yet. But the first thing that changes isn't your bank account. It's your mindset. For the first time, you can say no without feeling like your entire life is about to collapse. You can walk away from a bad job, end a business relationship that no longer serves your goals. Choose a long-term opportunity instead of chasing quick money. You begin thinking in terms of months and years instead of simply surviving until the next payday. This is the true power of Level 3. Choice begins to appear. Machiavelli understood that strategy can only exist when people are no longer forced to react immediately. A person who is constantly backed into a corner cannot think long-term. They can only choose the option that causes the least pain today. But once you create financial breathing room, you begin to see more possibilities, more opportunities, more moves, more control over your future. However, Level 3 comes with a surprisingly dangerous trap: becoming satisfied too early. After years of struggle, having emergency savings, a second income, and a growing investment portfolio can make you feel successful. And, compared to most people, perhaps you are. But being ahead is not the same as being free. If you stop here, your side income may remain nothing more than extra spending money. Your investments may never grow large enough to transform your life. Your small business may still depend entirely on your time and energy. You've escaped panic, but you haven't escaped limitation. To reach the next level, your thinking must evolve from earning more to creating leverage. Don't ask, how can I create another source of income? Instead, ask, how can one skill, one asset, or one system continue producing results without requiring me to start from zero every single day? This is where leverage begins. A product that can be sold thousands of times. A team that multiplies your capabilities. An investment that compounds year after year. A brand that attracts opportunities before you even have to look for them. Level 3 gives you room to breathe. But Level 4 gives you the power to expand your influence. To enter that level, you must be willing to let go of the illusion that you have to control everything yourself. That is the gateway to Level 4, financial influence, where money no longer merely protects your life, it begins shaping the world around you. Level 4 begins when money no longer serves only to reduce your personal financial pressure. It begins opening doors that you didn't even know existed. By now, you've already achieved what many people spend a lifetime chasing. You've built financial stability. You've created multiple income streams. You've gained the freedom to make choices without constantly worrying about your next paycheck. But Level 4 changes the game entirely. At Level 3, money gives you freedom. At Level 4, it gives you influence. This is the level of leverage. You no longer ask, how can I work harder? Instead, you ask, how can one decision create 10 results? A well-chosen investment can continue generating returns for years. A great team can multiply your capabilities far beyond what you could accomplish alone. A strong brand can attract opportunities before you even begin looking for them. A strategic network can open doors that money alone could never buy. This is where ownership becomes more valuable than income. The average person focuses on how much money they earn. People at level 4 focus on what they control: assets, systems, information, relationships, access. Machiavelli understood that true power isn't simply about possessing more resources. It comes from placing yourself in a position where resources naturally begin flowing toward you. That is the essence of financial influence. You no longer need to do everything yourself. Instead, you build structures that continue producing results long after you've stepped away. But level 4 demands a price that very few people are willing to pay. You must become comfortable being misunderstood. Once you begin thinking decades ahead, many people around you are still chasing immediate gratification. They may not understand why you decline expensive vacations, spend weekends building systems instead of relaxing, or walk away from relationships that no longer fit the future you're trying to create. Some will call you cold. Others will say you're obsessed with success, too ambitious, too practical, too focused on money. But strategic thinkers understand something that most people never will. Not every sacrifice can be explained to people who cannot yet see the future you're building. The greatest trap at level 4 is the arrogance of competence. Once you've built successful systems, accumulated assets, and gained influence, it's easy to believe you're always right. You begin expanding too quickly, trusting the wrong people, taking on unnecessary debt, or underestimating risks simply because you've been successful before. At this level, a single mistake no longer costs you a few months of income. It can erase years of hard work. To reach level 5, leverage alone is no longer enough. You must learn to control leverage. You need to know when to expand, when to stay silent, when to trust, and when to step back before everyone else even realizes danger is approaching. Level 4 is where you begin shaping your circumstances, but level 5 is where you stop merely reacting to the game. You begin influencing the rules of the game itself. And that is the gateway to level 5, financial power, a level that most people will spend their entire lives chasing but never truly reach. Level 5 begins when money no longer provides only security, freedom, or influence. It begins creating the power to shape reality itself. At the lower levels, you learn how to escape financial pressure. Then, you learn how to build choices. Next, you discover how to use leverage to expand your position. But at level 5, you are no longer simply operating within existing systems. You begin influencing how those systems work. That is the difference between someone who is wealthy and someone who possesses true financial power. A wealthy person can buy expensive things. A financially powerful person can control resources, influence decisions, and create opportunities that most people will never even see. At this level, money is no longer measured primarily by what it can buy for you. It is measured by what it can move: people, capital, information, technology, networks, markets. One well-timed phone call can unlock a major business opportunity. A single investment can change the direction of an entire company. One strategic relationship can place you inside the room where important decisions are made long before the rest of the world even knows they exist. That is why level 5 is so rare, because it demands far more than the ability to make money. It requires the ability to see the structures of power that exist behind money itself. Machiavelli understood that the most powerful person is not always the most visible one. In many cases, the individual with the greatest influence is the one who has the least need to be seen. They don't need to display their wealth. They don't need to announce every move they make. They don't need to prove they are the smartest person in the room. They understand that attention can be an asset, but it can also become a liability. That is why financial power at level 5 often operates quietly, through ownership, through equity, through boardrooms, through strategic networks, through control of assets that millions of people depend on but rarely notice. Someone at level 5 doesn't have to make every important decision personally. They simply ensure that the most important decisions are made within systems where they hold meaningful influence. This is also the level where time begins to carry an entirely different meaning. At level 1, you think about tomorrow. At level 2, you think about the next few months. At level 3, you begin thinking in years. At level 4, you think in long-term strategies and expansion cycles. But at level 5, you begin thinking in decades. You no longer ask, how much profit will this investment generate? Instead, you ask, what position will this investment place me in 10 years from now? You no longer evaluate relationships based only on immediate benefits. You consider whether they could become long-term alliances, valuable sources of information, or strategic gateways in the future. This is where patience becomes a form of power. Most people need immediate rewards to stay motivated. People at level 5 are willing to wait because they understand that the strongest positions are usually built quietly, long before anyone else notices them. But this level does not bring perfect peace. In reality, the pressure simply changes form. When you have no money, you worry about survival. When you possess power, you face far more complex questions. Who is genuinely loyal? Who is only interested in your position? Which partners are building the future alongside you? And who is quietly waiting for the right moment to exploit your weaknesses? At level 5, mistakes involving people are often far more dangerous than mistakes involving money. A poor investment may cost millions. The wrong person placed in the right position can destroy an entire system. That is why truly powerful people usually spend more time observing than speaking. They don't only listen to what people say, they study the motives behind the words. They don't simply ask who is talented, they ask how that person will behave when incentives change. Because power attracts both loyalty and manipulation. The greatest trap at level 5 is not losing money. It is believing that you have become invincible. Long-term success can blur the line between genuine skill and the illusion of immunity. People begin believing that the rules no longer apply to them. They ignore small warning signs. They stop listening to criticism. They surround themselves only with people who constantly agree with them. And that is the moment power begins to decay from within. Machiavelli understood that great leaders need more than loyal followers. They need people who are courageous enough to tell them what they do not want to hear. Someone at level 5 builds systems that are capable of correcting themselves. They rely on evidence instead of blind confidence. They value honest criticism over empty praise. They establish clear limits instead of pursuing endless expansion. True financial power is not the ability to do whatever you want. It is the wisdom to know what should never be done, even when you have the power to do it. This is also the stage where money transforms from a personal goal into a tool for creating lasting influence. You can use it to build businesses, create jobs, fund innovation, shape entire industries, support ideas that will outlive you. And that is the deepest meaning of level 5. Financial power no longer answers the question, how can I live? It begins answering a far greater one. What will continue to exist because I was here? Most people never reach level 5 because they stop climbing the moment life becomes comfortable. They want comfort, but not responsibility. They want influence, but not the weight of decisions that affect thousands of lives. They want power, but not the discipline required to control themselves. And that is the final truth. Level 5 does not belong to the person who earns the most money. It belongs to the person who can maintain mastery over themselves, their resources, and their systems long enough to transform money into freedom, position, and lasting influence. Because at the highest level, money is only a tool. Autonomy is the true asset. The ability to shape outcomes is the true power. And self-mastery is what ultimately determines whether you own power or whether power eventually owns you. Knowing which level you're on isn't enough. What truly matters is understanding exactly what needs to change in order to reach the next one. To move from level 1 to level 2, you must create financial breathing room. That begins with controlling your spending, building an emergency fund, and eliminating the debts that keep you financially dependent. To move from level 2 to level 3, you must stop using every increase in income to upgrade your lifestyle. The gap between what you earn and what you spend should be transformed into assets, valuable skills, and additional income streams. To move from level 3 to level 4, you must learn the art of leverage. Don't simply create more work for yourself. Build products, systems, teams, and assets that continue producing results without requiring your constant involvement. To move from level 4 to level 5, the challenge is no longer making more money. It becomes mastering leverage, managing people, controlling risk, and most importantly, mastering yourself. Every level requires you to let go of a previous version of yourself. At level 1, you let go of helplessness. At level 2, you let go of the need to impress others. At level 3, you let go of becoming satisfied too early. At level 4, you let go of the belief that you must control everything yourself. And at level 5, you let go of the illusion that power makes you incapable of failure. No one reaches a higher level simply because they want more. They rise because their habits, standards, and decision-making evolve. So don't just ask, which level do I want to reach? Ask yourself, what level are my daily actions building? Because your financial future isn't determined by what you say you want. It is determined by what you consistently do until it becomes part of who you are. In the end, the 5 levels of financial power are not simply a measure of how much money you have. They reflect how much control you have over your own life. At level 1, you fight to survive. At level 2, you pursue stability. At level 3, you begin reclaiming your freedom of choice. At level 4, you build leverage and influence. And at level 5, money becomes a tool for shaping systems, creating opportunities, and influencing the future. But no one reaches a higher level because of a single life-changing decision. Real transformation comes from the small choices you repeat every day. The way you spend your money, the opportunities you choose to decline, the skills you develop, the assets you build, the people you trust, and the standards you refuse to lower. So the most important question isn't how much money you earn. The real question is your money expanding your freedom or quietly controlling your life? Take an honest look at your current habits and ask yourself which level they are truly building. If this video has changed the way you think about money, subscribe to Money is Power and let us know in the comments which level you're working toward. Because financial power doesn't begin the day you become wealthy. It begins the moment you decide that your circumstances will no longer determine the direction of your life.